The next big shift in Samsung's software isn't being hyped by the company, teased in ads, or shown on stage, yet it's quietly forming behind the scenes in a way that feels almost too bold for a mid-cycle update. A version of One UI that doesn't just look refreshed, but behaves differently, reacts differently, and hints at a much smarter system coming in 2026. Welcome back, viewers. Sam here. Like, share, and subscribe for more. Right now, One UI 8.5 is floating in that strange space between rumor and reality. Samsung hasn't announced it, hasn't acknowledged its existence, and technically, it's not supposed to arrive until next year. But early builds have already slipped through the cracks, landing on devices like the S25 Ultra and giving us a surprisingly clear snapshot of what Samsung is shaping behind the curtain. And trust me, there's a lot more happening than anyone expected. The first thing that jumps out isn't a flashy new feature or a giant redesign. It's the subtler touches, the kind that make you stop for a second because the phone feels just a bit more alive. Even the lock screen behaves differently. New animated clock styles appear at the end of the list, shifting with a smoother rhythm, while notifications rest on a cleaner frosted glass background that looks sharper and more premium than what we had before. It sets the tone for the rest of the update, familiar, but noticeably more refined. But the real surprise begins the moment you swipe down the quick panel. Instead of the rigid layout we've known for years, Samsung finally hands over full creative control. Every toggle can be resized, moved, stretched, or reshaped. Brightness and volume sliders can switch direction, shrink down to almost nothing, or expand into bold vertical bars. Tap the pencil icon and the entire control center transforms into a canvas where you can create your own layout from scratch. And when you long press a slider, it springs up with this smooth, playful animation that makes the whole panel feel touch responsive in a way we never quite achieved before. Even the notification shade feels more dynamic now. Dismissing alerts creates a soft bounce with stronger haptics, while a subtle fade at the top blends notifications into the background more naturally. It's one of those tiny touches that you don't really notice until you scroll, then suddenly realize how static the old version felt. Once you dive into settings, the changes become even clearer. Everything looks roomier. Corners are rounder, spacing is wider, and animations flow instead of snapping. The search bar has moved down to the bottom, which seems like a simple relocation until you actually use it. Suddenly, searching feels effortless because your thumb doesn't have to stretch anymore. Inside the battery section, Samsung has replaced the traditional icon with a clean percentage that shifts to red when low and displays a leaf icon in power-saving mode. It's minimal, clear, and easier to read at a glance. The device care section has been refreshed as well, with a cleaner interface that makes performance stats easier to digest. And when you head into the software update menu, you'll see Samsung experimenting with a new splash-style display of your current One UI version, almost like an Android-style Easter egg tucked directly into the menu. You still get the same buttons, but now it feels more intentional, more polished, and surprisingly fun. Samsung stock apps also received a quiet but noticeable makeover. The Gallery app now shows a preview of your latest media at the top, paired with larger buttons and a pill-shaped navigation bar that gives everything a more modern look. It has a hint of iOS, but with Samsung's glass-like aesthetic layered on top. My Files get similar treatment with a bottom search bar, smoother transitions, and a layout that highlights recent files and storage in a cleaner way. Even the Phone app adjusts to the new design language with pill-shaped menus that feel far more cohesive with the rest of One UI 8.5. What's interesting is how Samsung seems to be blending these design changes with deeper system-level intelligence. Buried in the code of early test builds is a feature called Network Battery Saver. It uses personal data intelligence, the same system that powers suggestions and adaptive battery to detect when you're not actively using your device. During those quiet hours, like when you're sleeping, the phone restricts unnecessary network activity to save power. It's not flashy, and most users won't ever notice it's happening, but it's the kind of invisible optimization that adds real value over time. This ties into a larger shift. Earlier leaks hinted at major features like AI meeting assistance, tap to share via NFC, and auto-generated product reviews. None of those appear in the early builds, but sources say Samsung is holding them for later stages of the beta. That's important because it confirms One UI 8.5 is far from finalized. The internal CK7 build has already been retired, and Samsung is preparing its public beta under the new 6 version. Another sign the system is still evolving. Perhaps the most unexpected part of all this is that Samsung rarely opens beta programs for mid-cycle updates. But this time, all signs point toward an exception. Leaks from testers suggest the beta was initially planned for November, though there's been a slight delay as Samsung polishes a few rough edges. If everything stays on track, S20 for Ultra and Fold 6 owners could be the first to test drive the update before the end of the year. Even in this unfinished state, One UI 8.5 already feels like a step toward Samsung's next design era. The quick panels glass-like tiles have thinner outlines, softer shades, and improved visibility. Volume and brightness sliders can be separated and customized individually. Quick toggles may become resizable, much like what Google is exploring for Android 16, and the animations, the highlight of this build, are simply smoother across the board. Apps open with a more fluid lift, transitions glide instead of snap, and gestures carry a polished weight to them that One UI 8 lacked. What makes this update fascinating is that it doesn't rely on dramatic new features to impress. Instead, it creates a sense that the phone is cleaner, more personal, more responsive, and more in tune with how you use it. It's a quieter kind of upgrade, but one that reshapes the experience in a meaningful way. And once the Galaxy S26 series arrives with One UI 8.5 pre-installed, that new experience will become the foundation for everything Samsung builds next. Samsung is clearly preparing something bigger than just a refresh. They're tightening the interface, amplifying customization, dialing up the animations, and weaving in a smarter layer of system intelligence. Even though many rumored features haven't arrived yet, the early build tells us the direction is set. The real question now is how much further Samsung plans to push this before the final release. If you enjoyed the breakdown, drop a like, leave a comment with your favorite change so far, and make sure you're subscribed for more daily deep dives into Samsung's evolving ecosystem. There's still a lot more to explore as the beta rolls out, and I'll be here covering every detail the moment it drops. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.